I never thought any more about him other than the fact that he was an acquaintance, that's all. Until he invited me home, invited me to his home for dinner.
That's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean...
Who is Michael Jordano?
Okay. Michael Jordano was the owner of an Italian bar in South Philadelphia, and I got to know him through advertising when I worked for the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin, and he needed to advertise for some help to work in his bar. So we talked quite a bit about it, where it was, the location, what sort of things they served. Did they serve lunches or dinners, or how limited was it? So I found out quite a bit about the bar, and in the meantime, he was asking questions about me too. He came to the office once, and we met at the office. And then he invited me back to the bar. And I thought, well, this is kind of chancy and not a good idea for someone like me working for the paper to go down and look at this bar, but it's done all the time anyway.
How old were you?
I was close to 20.
Okay.
And I did go down to his bar, and I was pretty impressed with it. It was a big place with booths, several booths in there, and a nice mahogany bar in there. Good music, and it was the size of that bar was comfortable. It was big, and he was doing a good business. And after I went to the bar, he stayed in touch with me for quite a while and asked me out on a date, which I went out on a date with him.
Now, how old, you were close to 20, how old was Michael Jordano?
I've got to say he had to be in his 30s. Yeah, but he was a guy that wore nothing but suits. I never saw him in anything else. He had a lot of people that would come into the bar to go and talk to him. And it was quiet, very quiet conversation. A number of people, guys, would go into that bar and talk to him the whole time I was sitting there. And this one time, they were going to do something that evening, and the arrangement was made for Mike to go to this meeting, and I was at the bar, so he appointed one of the guys there to take me, I don't know where, take me to this other address. But on the way there, they would stop at places like candy stores and cleaning shops, where you take and go get your clothes cleaned, and little mom and pop stores, things like that. And they were doing something called collecting the ribbons. Well, anyway, we all get back to the bar, and Mike, in a big booming voice, says, "Where are the ribbons?" Years later, I just went back over that evening of stopping at all these stores to get these paper bags, and what was in those paper bags were records of numbers and money in those bags.
Wow.
Yeah, and they turned it all over to Mike. And the numbers, not only that, any other racket too, because those guys were very respectful with him. I mean, he was a guy.
How'd they treat you?
Like as beautifully as could be. They were very, very pleasant, very nice to me.
What happened in the meantime? You started dating him?
Yes, and he was a perfect gentleman. He took me to some very, very nice places. We would go to dinner. He would take me home. He was very mannerly. He lived at home with his mother, and one of his habits was he went to 7 o'clock mass every Sunday morning. Mike took me to a club in downtown Philadelphia, a very exclusive club, and it was like a jewel box. And Lena Horne was in there, and I was just blown away. I mean, she wasn't all that famous at the time, but I was so impressed with her music. I thought, oh my God, this girl is beautiful, and she sings well, shaped like an Adonis. I mean, she was just beautiful. And then I never thought any more about him other than the fact that he was an acquaintance. That's all. Until he invited me home, invited me to his home for dinner. I didn't realize what was going to happen. He invited me to his home for dinner, and it was a banquet. And he had his sisters there and all these relatives sitting around this real long table, and there was a cauldron of some kind of soup that was brought to the table, and each person got a big scoop of that soup in a special place. It was beautifully set up. I mean, that meal was something else. And of course, I had a stomach about this big, and I couldn't eat like they were able to eat, but they started out with a soup, a little plate of spaghetti, and then whatever kind of roast that was, and all the veggies, and the desserts. My God, I never saw anything like it. Somebody spent the whole damn day making that meal. It was meaningful to Mike, I guess, but I didn't feel that way about him. How did it end?
Yeah.
Whoa. I didn't know where we were going to go that evening, but Mike picked me up in his Cadillac, and we drove over across the Delaware River Bridge into Camden, New Jersey. And we went on for a few miles along the White Horse Pike. And he took me into this very fashionable New York type of nightclub. The music was beautiful and it was dark. Right behind me was this plant that was about 4 feet high. And Mike was ordering all kinds of drinks for me. And he probably thought, I'm going to get this girl drunk and try it. But anyway, he was ordering these drinks for me, and when he wasn't looking, I'd be going like this and dumping it into that plant. I probably killed the plant. Okay. So anyway, when it got time to leave, we started, and you know, like I say, we were in an adjacent area, and we had to get back through Camden to get to the Delaware River Bridge. So he started west toward the bridge and cut off the Black Horse Pike.
So when you left the bar, did he tell you where you guys were going? Or?
Didn't say anything about it.
No.
No.
And what time was that at when you left
It was
the bar?
midnight. It was midnight at least. And he cuts off the main drag and down into this business factory type of area. And it was pitch black down in there. There were tall brick buildings, things like that, like there are all over Philadelphia. And pitch black, and we come to this street, and he stops, and I think that he was waiting to see if there was any traffic coming one way or another. But he reached over and started to grope me. I wrestled with him for a couple of minutes, and I got scared, and he insulted me. And he says, when I rebuffed him, He said to me, I have more class in my little finger than you have in your whole body. I thought, I've got to do something. What am I going to do? And just about that time, miraculously, a cab pulled up. And I grabbed that door, pulled it open, jumped out, and ran as fast as I could around the cab over to the door, the passenger door, and I dragged that, I pulled that door open and jumped in beside the cab driver. Yeah, he says, I'll take you any place you want to go. I told him I had no money, and he raced to the bridge, the Delaware River Bridge, to get me across that bridge and then get me the hell out of New Jersey. And I thanked him profoundly. Oh, geez, I was scared. We were as close to the singer as we are to that stove. That's how close she was. Because the place was small. We were practically against the wall, and she was practically right. The doorway was right next to her. That's where she was singing.